Now I can come back to these. I just want to show you some of these bullet points. These 3 slides I just showed you were taken from Psychology Today. These weren't even taken from Rev Zalman's work. I just felt it was kind of nice to present forgiveness from a couple of different points of view. Now, one of the exercises we do is going to be the gift of forgiveness. Some of this might be a little repetitious, but that's okay. I'll be making my point. Sometimes I'll repeat myself, but that's okay. So after I present some of these concepts, we're going to do a visualization, a contemplation exercise. And we found that imaging in our mind's eye is a very, very powerful tool. Now, we gave you some homework. Some of you might have had time to do it, and some of you might not have had time to do it. But what the homework was to think about an incident or a person that you are still holding a grudge, that you really haven't done the work around that. And that does not necessarily mean that you've gone directly to that person. I can tell you that when we do this work, it comes in layers. We take layers off. We don't oftentimes say that we're going to forgive something that we've been holding on for years and expect that we've asked somebody for forgiveness. Oftentimes we do that near Yom Kippur, but you don't expect that it's just going to come right away or immediately. Sometimes like an onion, we've got to peel off the layers. I'll give you an example. I have worked very hard. I retired like 3 years ago, and I had a principal. I was a teacher, an elementary school teacher, and in my last couple of years of teaching, I had a lot of physical problems, and I had an extremely non-supportive principal, and instead of really supporting me, I was spending my lunchtime with my head down on my desk. I could just barely function to get through the day. And instead of decreasing maybe some of my responsibilities, all I really asked for was that he take away a little bit of the extras, the duties, like the lunch duty or the recess duty. And not only did he not take that away, he added more to it. And his logic, and he even said this, was he didn't want to treat any of his staff special. He didn't want to make any exceptions for anybody. And I was having a hard time functioning. When I retired, it took me probably 2 years to let go of that anger. I would work on it and take maybe a little bit of it away. I'd work on it again. I'd work on it many, many times. I can honestly say that doing the work, I have really let go. I have reframed that work. I'll get into that word in a moment, when I say reframe something. You can see that we free ourselves and we learn how to ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness is an internal thing. Another example I'll give you is my father work. I did lots of work around my father, especially after he died. I didn't have to go to him and ask him for forgiveness. I had to do the inner work of forgiveness. I had to do the letting go. And that was the only thing that we have control of. We don't have control over anybody else. We only have control over our own behavior. So we can do the inner work of forgiveness. We don't necessarily have to do the external work, although that is good too. And we will do exercises to help us do that work. Now, I just read an interesting book this morning about forgiveness in Yom Kippur. It was the book was entitled Chesed, the Loving Kindness, by Rabbi Rami Shapiro, and it talks about asking God for forgiveness. And as we know, on Yom Kippur, we ask for forgiveness of each other, of our fellow brothers and sisters, and we ask forgiveness of God. So forgiveness can extend, as we say, into Atzilut, into that spiritual realm, as well as the other realms. To forgive is not to condone. I've said that. It's to free ourselves and move forward in our lives. And the analogy that we use is when we don't forgive, we hold ourselves prisoner. We're the jailers holding ourselves prisoner. So we need to forgive, not necessarily forget, and let go. And very important, holding on to that anger and resentment drains us of our vitality and our ability to receive love and our ability to give love. It drains us. Yeah. Now, let me move on here. Okay. I entitled this Lessons of Forgiveness. And I've said, the only thing we have control of is you. We have zero control over another person. We need to let go and stop holding on. Surrendering, very similar. But here is what I really want to talk about here. Reframing or recontextualizing, which means making lemonade out of lemons. Can we grow? Can we learn? Can we gain some wisdom out of the experience of forgiveness? What are the unexpected blessings that we received? And can we get to a place of being grateful that we've gone through this? We do an exercise in our work called a testimonial dinner to our severe teachers, something that we hold a grudge, that we thought, and that was very anger-provoking. Maybe if we reframe it or recontextualize that, maybe there is some goodness that came out of it. How can we meditate on that? How can we do the work of forgiveness and see that maybe there was something positive that we learned from those interactions that we once thought was a severe punishment, but we gained some wisdom and we can reframe that now to be a positive, in fact, maybe even a blessing, maybe even something we can be grateful for. Now, one of the works that we do is called the bedtime prayer for forgiveness. And Reb Zalman advocates that when we do a bedtime Shema, and there are prayers in our liturgy that we say a Shema, and Reb Zalman advocates that we daily, at the end of the day, that we do some kind of a process before we sleep to do forgiveness. Now, what I'd like to do, let me just check here. Before we do this, what I'd like to do is directly read just a few excerpts directly from Reb Zalman's book, because I really can't say this any clearer than he does directly. This is in a chapter called Healing Our Relationships. One of the most powerful tools we have to reformat the template of our being is forgiveness. Using time-stretching techniques, we can reach back to repair the places of great hurt the broken promises, the acts of betrayal, the ruptures and heartaches that come with the territory of intimate relationships, marriages and divorces. All of us have unhealed emotional scar tissue that keeps our hearts closed and armored against repeated injuries. But the price we pay for our continued suspiciousness is enormous. For example, if I refuse to forgive someone who has wronged me, I mobilize my own criminal justice system to punish the offender. As judge and jury, I sentence the person to a long prison term without parole and incarcerate him in a prison that I construct from the bricks and mortar of a hardened heart. Now, as jailer and warden, I must spend as much time in prison as the prisoner I am guarding. All the energy that I put into maintaining the prison system comes out of my energy budget. From this point of view, bearing a grudge is very costly because long-held feelings of anger, resentment, and fear drain my energy and imprison my vitality and creativity. And oftentimes we don't forgive because we feel that the offending party deserves to learn a lesson. Now that is externalizing, thinking that we have the responsibility to teach the other person a lesson. That might not necessarily be our responsibility, and it is extremely costly.
Can I add something there, Mark?
Yes, please.
So one of the other things that that particular path that Mark just articulated gives us is a certain self-righteousness, that we are powerful, that we can retain and get back power by being judge and jury. What we often find very difficult to do in forgiveness is to take responsibility for our part in whatever offense or conflict arose. And if we fixate on the other person and their culpability, we allow ourselves not to examine the weaknesses that we have, the opportunities that we missed, the relationships that we broke in one way or another. And part of forgiveness work is to the other person, but the part that's for ourselves has to include our ability to sit with our knock on the chest, our vidui, of who we really are as people and how we really could have been better off in cases where we weren't. So I just wanted to add that sort of to balance those two pieces together, Debarty.
Shmati. Now, some of us have done shadow work, and when we really practice mindfulness, we come to a place where we say, we accept what is. You know, we don't put things in, we accept that there's a duality to this existence. As some people put it in terms of right and wrong, positive and negative, light and dark. But especially when we do the work of Yom Kippur and we have a relationship with God, part of that work is facing our shadow. And as I said before, when we do forgiveness work, Reb Zalman goes on to say, we open old files and relive them, recontextualizing them for deeper meaning, harvesting the unexpected benefits from the wounding and the betrayals enacted by friends, spouses, lovers, children, and colleagues. Can we get to a place where we can say, I forgive you and I am grateful for your contribution to my life? Powerful stuff. All right. Now, I think we're going to have